Yes, and today on Pesa Sport, we are talking about financial investments. We do have the pleasure of having David Cairo in virtual studio with us. But before we get to him, we did hit the streets, and the questions we had to ask you was, what would you invest your money in?
I would definitely invest in real estate, probably buy an apartment and rent it out as an Airbnb because it's very much profitable in this current day.
What I can invest in ni film.
I can invest in an apartment so that I can rent it after nimeinvest kama mbili hivi.
I would start a production company.
To start a pharmacy. It is because of the love of biology and science. Yeah.
Of course, very interesting answers there as usual. But David, welcome.
Thank you very much, and how are you?
Fine, thank you. Pleasure to have you again. All right, so let's just start by what is an investment? I'm sure there are a few people who don't know what an investment is, so maybe start by explaining that.
Good. So an investment is a vehicle, instrument, opportunity that one goes into to ensure that over a period of time, they're able to receive some returns, which means that then they'll be in a good with an anticipation or an expectation that they will be in a good financial position. In other words, they'll have liquid cash over a given period of time. That is what an investment is.
Most of the times when it comes to investments, you definitely want an ROI, or rather a return on investment, right? So what happens when you want to invest and all you have to do is, mostly mara mingi kwanza siku hizi kuna wana street talk like mi siwezi nunua gari, hizi nisaidia mi nanunua shamba. So what are those factors you should consider before investing, and how do you invest?
Thank you very much. Na hiyo story ya kusema mtu hawezi nunua gari, for me that's already a sound decision, and so I expect. So let's put it this way. Like I said, investment is, think of investment as an opportunity. There's an opportunity where if you put your money grows and or it gives you some money over a certain period of time in terms, and hopefully a regular period of time. So you are the one to decide, or the investment or yourself decides how frequent the period of accessing the funds are. Now, when you're investing, the first thing you must have or should have a plan. In other words, the plan is one, how am I, building, or do I already have the funds, or do I need to build the capital for those funds? So have a plan around that. The second thing you need to plan around is this investment that I'm putting money in. What duration of time will the money, we need to turn around the money? Like I say, the period of time. Is it something I'm investing to make money daily, to make money, for example, weekly, monthly, annually? So you also need to have a plan around that. So when you're looking at an investment, how does this investment repay you the money?
Let me ask you, I'm going to take this to the youth, and let me talk about, the people mostly bet with the money that they have. Sometimes you're supposed to do ABCD, but you're like, acha niekele bet mtu wangu inaweza kujipa. What will you tell such people? Because I've had so many stories of people who have lost a lot of money from betting, and sometimes also misusing the money they were supposed to use for something else that was constructive, to bet in the name of, I'm investing, ikijipa, itakuwa hiyo pesa imerudi. So what would you tell such people?
First and foremost, I would understand that not aware is not people who are investment business. But for you or me, if we have money and we want to grow that money, if you go and bet, that's not an investment, and I'll explain why it's not from a financial perspective. Is because you're not in control of the outcome, so to speak, and really it's a chance, really, and the chance in many cases is is 1 in maybe 10 million. So in other words, it's like losing money. So for me, that would not be avenue I would advocate for one to invest. However, I know people do it with a very good motive, but today I'm hoping people would understand that actually there's a very big risk because then you can lose a lot of those funds to betting.
Yeah.
Now, and I hope that answers it. Whether that answers your question.
Yes.
I do believe it does. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It does answer the question.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about those
So
people.
It's good for people to appreciate.
All right.
It's good for people to appreciate that that's not an investment. But just allow me to retract back a little bit and say,
Okay.
you asked me, for example, what do you invest in? So what you invest in is what brings you money, not what takes away money. Now, one of the reasons why someone, for example, would say, I'll not invest in a car is because when you buy a car, for example, you have to pay money, for example, for what? For insurance. Okay, first you clear the car, if you're importing it, you have to now go and install things like alarms and some people want teens, you want to work on the radio, etc., tires, rims and everything. All that is money you're pumping into that car. Now, to maintain the car on the road, and this is just an example, you still have to spend money on fuel, you have to spend money on servicing, you have to spend money on insurance, you know? That again is money going out. Now, if all you're doing is convenience, accessing point A to B conveniently with your car, remember today you need to pay for parking, for example, car wash, and not just the cost, but also the time. That's why you find someone, for example, saying that they will not invest in a car because they're saying this is money that is the car is taking away. But for example, if you're investing in a vehicle that you will use for business, then we consider that an asset because it is bringing you money. For example, it can be a taxi, an Uber or something. Maybe it can be a van, it can be, public transport vehicle, anything. That is a different case because then you're investing and it's going to bring back finance for you. So I needed to just also address that issue when you're looking at what to invest in.
Okay. So
now, for example, when you look at PopShot, what people were saying, two people talked of real estate, makes sense, but then the question is at what level are we looking at? When someone talks of investing in film, I think, that sounds to me like quite, something, and especially because they seem to talk from their passion. Someone else saying they'll invest in production, in a pharmacy, which is really trading. So again, for me, those would be something to consider.
Okay. But when we use the word investment, for a lot of young people, they think that's like a lot of money. You have to have thousands, maybe millions of money to invest. So what would you advise young people on how to start investing, like with what they have?
Thank you. And allow me to use a typical example. So you don't have to start with millions and you don't have to start with billions. You start where you are. In fact, that's the first thing I'll encourage anyone. Start where you are. Allow me to give an example where 29, either early last year or 19, I forget. I met, and allow me to give this story because it explains, it's something that I did practically. So I'm using Uber one morning on a weekend. I'm using Uber to move from point A to B. And I hail the vehicle through the app. The vehicle comes, I get into the vehicle, I sit in front. And then as we are moving and before we get like halfway through our destination, I look at the driver and I tell him, I don't know why you look familiar from somewhere. And he has all these beards. It must be before Corona because we didn't have masks and everything. And he tells me that has been the question ever since you entered the car from the house. Then we trace back and realize that he was my student. I taught at the university a while back. And he tells me that around 2005, I did talk to them about investments. And I told them the way as students then, if they have 100 shillings, they would start investing, for example, in the stock market. Because all you need to do with the stock market is you need to just buy a minimum of 100 shares. Now, if you have a share, for example, that is 10 bob, you multiply that by, if a share is a shilling, or even a shilling, and you need 100 of them, then with 100 shillings, you can invest. Now, what surprised me is I met him around end of March, and he told me that in February, of course, this was like close to over 10 years, slightly, he listened to me the 2005, started investing with his pocket money, and he told me that less than a month, about a month before we met now, this time, he had harvested 30,000 from his stock market account. So how much do you need to start? Start where you are. You don't need to start big, start where you are. But I'll give an example. Start with the stock market, for example. Build your account, grow your account. There's something we call compound interest. The money you get, return it there, reinvest it and reinvest it. Then with time, you can go and now invest in what we call the treasury bills. And the treasury bills, you just need a minimum of, for treasury bills, I think with about 50,000 you can put in, and then you build the bills, and then now with 100,000 you can get what we call the bonds, and they'll give you some money either every quarter, every 3 months, every 6 months, and that means you're growing. So please start where you are.
Wow.
And an example is you can start buying shares.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, David. Insightful as usual.
You're most welcome. I appreciate, and I'm looking forward. Asante sana. And I'll be keen to hear the feedback from our viewers.
Definitely.
Of this information. Thank you.
We should have that for you at the end of the show. All right, guys, we need to take a short commercial break. Do not go anywhere because our guest is in studio.